So, good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on book 4, chapter 1, which is Earthly Joys and Sorrows. And we are on antipathetic relationships, which is the subject we stopped last week on 938. So we start today on 939. Okay, Philip?
Since antipathetic relationships, since sympathetic spirits are spontaneously attracted to each other, how is it that this love is often one-sided? That the most sincere affection can be met with indifference or even repulsion, and that the deepest affection of two individuals for one another may change into dislike or even hatred. It is often an atonement, but only a short-lived one. Moreover, how many individuals believe that they are desperately in love because they judge one another based on appearances only? But when forced to live together, they soon discover that their affection was nothing more than a passing whim. It is not enough to be taken by someone whom you imagine to be endowed with all sorts of qualities. You can only determine the worth of the appearances that have captivated you by actually living together. On the other hand, how many of these relationships that at first seem as though they never could become sympathetic grow over time into a tender and lasting affection. Based on the respect that grows between the parties through the development of a more complete familiarity with each other's qualities. You must not forget that it is the spirit that loves and not the body. And when the illusion of physical attraction dissipates, the spirit sees reality. There are two kinds of affection, that of the body and that of the soul, and they are often mistaken for one another. The affection of the soul, when pure and sympathetic, is lasting, while that of the body is ephemeral. This is why people who think that they are in love eternally often despise one another when the illusion fades away.
Okay, so when we talk about attraction between two incarnated spirits, we need to understand that we come to this world, we incarnate to be reunited with loved ones and to be reunited with those that we have our differences, that we have to readjust, that we have to resolve our issues. The Spirit tells us that most marriages are marriages of readjustment. So that's why you see nowadays this large number of divorces and separations. We understand from Spiritism that true love lasts forever. Those that we truly love, we are going to carry this back to the spiritual world, carry back to the physical world. And here we're talking about the pure love, not the attraction, the physical attraction. We're talking about pure love that unites two spirits. You can see, if we only think about our relationships here in the physical world, right? Maybe with siblings, with friends, we have those that we really care for, that we truly love, even if they have their imperfections. We are all imperfect spirits. We accept their imperfections, We don't necessarily agree with them. We don't necessarily engage with their actions when they are, in our opinion, mistaken. But the attraction, the eternal attraction of pure love never dissipates. So normally we come into a family that will have three types of spirits: those that we love, those that we have issues in the past that we need to readjust, and those that are unknown to us in previous incarnations that are opportunities for us to learn from each other and grow into the family, the eternal family, right? But why the attraction if these are on a couple, if these are two spirits that have problems with each other? Because it is the only way that we are going to be able to reunite with them, to work on our issues. Because if we didn't have this initial physical attraction, we would never be reunited with those that are not true love, those that are not the ones that we need to readjust. So, because when you talk about children, right? If a child is born, you are going to take care of the child. It is your child. So it can come a spirit that you don't like, and you are going to have to deal with it. Most people will learn to love, some people won't, but it is. But for a couple to get together, you need something. You need a spark. And if you remember your past, or if you feel that repulsion, you are never going to get together, and you need to get together. So that's why you have the initial attraction. That is an opportunity for you to work together to resolve the differences. And many of us, we are imperfect spirits. We fail to resolve our differences. We make them worse, and all this sort of things. But here also they are talking about one-sided affection, one-sided affection. In this case, what can happen is someone, a more evolved spirit that truly loves a less evolved spirit that was a child, that was a partner in a previous incarnation, that is willing to come and help that spirit. So they come, they reunite through marriage, and they try to help that spirit. So you see, but when that other spirit that has this repulsion or not sympathy, or the differences that they carry from the previous life, when it emerges, then it becomes a one-sided relationship, because the more evolved spirit trying to solve loves the spirit that is a rebellious spirit that tries to make life difficult. And again, you see these marriages that one part of the couple suffers and suffers and suffers, but never leave the other one behind, right? Which is the best way to resolve this issue. Of course, when you have violence, when you have abuses, mental abuse, then it's a different story. The separation sometimes is the only solution for the preservation of both. But many times it's not, it's just one partner that doesn't really care for the other that much, stays in the marriage or in the union more out of convenience than out of love. But one of the two stays in the marriage because they love, they want to help. So that's the reason for the antipathetic relationship. When the antipathetic relationship happens on both sides, which is a possibility because many of the marriages that we have today are readjustments, then what happens is many times both decide that it's better to separate. But when you are separating here, we have to resolve all our issues. but we don't need to resolve all of them in one incarnation. We cannot resolve them in one incarnation. So a separation, divorce, any form of separation, you are just postponing a solution if it's their both responsibility on both sides. Now, there is also in the case where the couple that one loves the other and the other doesn't love back, and the one that doesn't love leave the marriage, the one that left the marriage will carry the responsibility. The one that was left behind, they are not responsible for the end of the marriage. They did what they could. They were trying to help. So you don't carry that responsibility. Of course, because it's true love, you will want to help. If you remember André Luiz in the book Nosso Lar, his mother is in a more evolved spiritual colony than André Luiz, that André Luiz just mentions. And she said that she's coming back to get married again with André Luiz's father, that is in the lower zones, accompanied by two former lovers, and she's going to receive the two former lovers of the former husband as two daughters to help all three of them. This is true love, right? You see a more evolved spirit really dedicating itself to true love. Is she going to succeed? We don't know, because it depends on the three of them also, their free will. Maybe they'll come. It's very likely that she will succeed with the daughters, because it's a difficult relationship. But the daughters, if it's not because it's not directly related to her, they are not antipathetic to André Luiz's mother. It's not a personal problem. They most likely, even with a difficult relationship, they will love their mother and they will improve on their issue. But the father, I don't know, maybe he will fall back into the old habits. And so, the relationships are always for us, all our relationships, family, parents, siblings, children, partners, they are all here for a reason. We need to work on they are here for us to improve. If we're going to improve or not, it's our own task. And understanding that the other side has free will. Let's say you have a sibling that hates you. Your responsibility is not to hate back. It's to try to have a civil relationship with them as much as possible. But you can only do so much on your side. If they continue hating you and they don't want to hear from you, they don't want to see you again, it's their option. They'll have to face the responsibilities. But we cannot engage in that hatred, because if we engage, we are just making things worse and carrying it for a future reincarnation. Okay.
Yeah, I just wonder, a good number of marriage, and not all, a good number of marriage are somewhat planned. Well, use the word planned very loosely here, of course, in the spiritual world, pre-reincarnation. But I wonder, when the spirit talks about of physical attraction, and to that gonna add social status, may interrupt that plan. That you become attracted physically to the one that is not the one supposed to be, and then all that the spirit described here happens.
Happens,
Yes.
It does happen. But sometimes you hear, I remember a story of a couple that were high school sweethearts, and they ended up going to different colleges, getting married away, and later in life, when they were 40, 50, they got together, both were divorced and got together, married, and they were, supposed to be together from the beginning, but free will you make your choices. They both, because of their free will, went in different directions and then got reunited later. So it is, again, free will. It's what we have free will. We make the decisions. We can plan to come here and be with someone, and we can even decide not to be with anyone, right? Decide that we're going to stay single, right? It happens also. So it's not that you are not solving the issues, because we have so many issues that we have to solve, so many imperfections that we have to work, that the ones that you don't work this lifetime, you postpone for another. You don't need to solve all of them. And sometimes when you talk about marriages, we hear a lot of spiritists asking, right, that they are in difficult marriages and say, oh, but if I separate, I'm going just to have to deal with this person again next life. I don't want to. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you are supposed to stay together as much as you could, and that's it. You solved with 10 years together or 20 years together, you solved the issue. You don't need to, if you end the marriage and you continue to have respect for each other, and you see these marriages that end because they chose different paths, but there's no hatred, no anger, and there is friendship. So in those type of marriages, you most likely solve the issue. You did what you had to do. You repaired the relationship. You did what you have to do, and you can move on, right? The problem is when you finish a marriage that you cannot talk to each other, you continue hating each other, then most likely you are carrying to the next incarnation, right? Back to the spiritual world. Okay? Philip.
Yes.
940.
Is a lack of sympathy between individuals who are destined to live together a source of sorrow, and one that excuse me, that is most bitter because it poisons an entire life. It is very bitter, but it is usually a misfortune of your own doing. First, your laws are at fault, because how can you imagine that God intends that people who dislike each other should live together? Second, you yourselves are to blame, because you often seek the satisfaction of your pride and ambition in those relationships rather than the happiness of mutual affection. In such cases, you undergo the natural consequences of your folly. A. But in such cases, is there generally an innocent victim? Yes, one of whom is a heavy atonement, but the accountability of such unhappiness falls upon the individual who caused it. If the light of truth reaches the victim's soul, faith in the future provides consolation. The causes of these private troubles disappear as your prejudgments are dispelled.
Yeah. When you think about the question that Kardec asks, you have to remember that in 1857, arranged marriages were still very common. They are still common in some cultures nowadays, right? In India and some other places. But at that time, it was pretty much common. So a couple that was married with no affection for each other because of conveniences was much more common than today. So that's the question, the origin of the question that Kardec is asking.
The impossibility of the separation.
And the difficulty.
Impossibility, especially for the woman's side.
Yes, at that time, the impossibility or difficulty of separation. So you were chained to the marriage that you were forced to, right?
Especially the woman.
Especially,
in some cases, the man could get away with it, but not the woman.
yes, and for some, sometimes the woman the way for the husband to get rid of the woman was to put her in a convent, right? That happened a lot. That we mentioned about Joanna de Angelis on Monday, right? So, uh, so again, nothing happens by chance. Even those arranged marriages that happened at that time. There was a reason for them to happen, to resolve the differences. But of course, we being imperfect spirits, we had made no effort to resolve the differences and made many times made things worse. But there were plenty of couples that adapted themselves to the convenience because it was convenient for both sides. So they accepted the realities of the husband and the wife having several lovers or other issues outside the marriage, and in the end, if you learn how to respect each other and accept the differences, it's already a progress, right? If you have the difficulty, if you try not to make things more difficult than they already are, you are making an effort, you are progressing in a sense, right? Kardec asks if it's generally an innocent victim, right? And many cases there is, right? Especially, again, women that are forced to marry and with someone that they have no attraction, no affection, and they have to face the challenges of this difficult marriage, and the responsibility. What happens? You increase your responsibility by your own actions. If you mistreat the woman, if you mistreat the husband, if you mistreat the kids, if you mistreat the servants at that time, you are going to create responsibilities, create karma for yourself. So if you are an innocent victim, and very few people are innocent victims, right? We all are. We may be victims, but we are victims most of the times as a concept
victims of the
present incarnation, because there is a past that we have a problem with, right? That we don't, thank God, we don't remember. So it's an opportunity for us to grow together. If we take this opportunity or not, it's on each one of us. Okay. Any questions here? We're changing subject here to a very interesting one. Go ahead, Philip.
Fear of death. The fear of death perplexes many. Where does this fear come from in people if they have before them the whole future? This fear is misplaced. But what do you expect? People have been thoroughly brainwashed since childhood to believe in heaven and hell, and who have retained this belief, along with the notion that most likely they will go to the latter, because whatever belongs to human life is a mortal sin for the soul, are understandably fearful. However, most people who are indoctrinated at an early age manage to throw it aside. When they grow up, if they are capable of forming a little judgment, they become atheists or materialists because they are unable to accept it. Thus, the natural effect, though unintentional, of such teaching is to make people believe that there is nothing beyond this present life. People who persist in their mistaken childhood beliefs fear eternal fire that burns without destroying. Death should not instill fear in virtuous persons because, with faith, they have the certainty of a future life. Hope leads them to expect a better life than the present one. And charity, which has guided their actions gives them the assurance that they will not encounter anyone that they may have reason to dread in the spirit world. Materialistic people, more attracted to physical life than by the spiritual one, only know material pains and pleasures. The only happiness they feel is in fleeting satisfaction of desires. Their minds, constantly occupied with the difficulties of the present life and painfully affected by them, are tortured with perpetual anxiety. For such individuals, the thought of death is terrifying because of doubts about the future and because they have to leave all their feelings and hopes behind when they leave Earth. Spiritually minded people who have raised themselves above the artificial wants created by the passions experiences a joy that is unknown to the carnally minded, even in this lower life. The moderation of their desires calms their spirits and gives them serenity. Happy in the good they do, life has no disappointments for them, and its upsets glide over their consciousness lightly, without leaving any painful impression.
Okay, so fear of death. This is natural because we all naturally fear the unknown. Even for us spiritists that understand that life continues, that we are going back to the spiritual world, that we are going to meet our loved ones if we do our job in the right way. There is always anxiety and fear because we don't know exactly where we are going to be and what we are going to find on the other side. Now, if we leave spiritism aside and think of us as humanity, right? The majority of humanity believes in life after death in different forms. A lot of people believe in heaven and hell, purgatory, some of them, or different forms of afterlife. You have probably between 20 and 30% of the world that is materialistic. There is atheists or don't believe that everything is here. So for people that believe in the afterlife, but they think they are going to heaven or hell or purgatory, the characteristic that we have of being perfect, for all of us that recognize our imperfections, it makes us believe that it's very likely we're going to hell, right? That's what people mostly think. Very few people think that they are going to heaven.
They cross out heaven,
Yeah.
purgatory and hell.
So if you don't believe in purgatory, you go to hell. If you believe in purgatory, we are all working hard to go to the purgatory, right? If you believe that life ends with the death of the physical body, then fear of death, it's a natural thing, right? It's going to end. You're leaving everything behind, and you leave your loved ones, your possessions, your dreams, everything stays behind. So Spiritism gives us an understanding of life in the spiritual world and should help us, if not eliminate, reduce this fear of death. Again, fear of the unknown is something natural. A lot of people are uncomfortable with change. And death is the biggest change. Death of the physical body is the biggest change that we can go through. So Some people don't like to move, not even move houses or apartments, right? Some of us here that moved countries, it gives us a lot of anxiety when you are preparing to move, when you're moving, the transition. So all of these, if you exchange anxiety for fear, it makes sense that we would have, even as spiritists, some fear of death. And we hear a lot about we are going to find ourselves where we place ourselves according to our vibrations. And that, for many spiritists, make them afraid, right? It's very common in Brazil, spiritists, they want to go to Nosso Lar, right? Because they read the book, because it's very popular. So I want to go to Nosso Lar. But actually, Nosso Lar is the lowest organized spiritual colony that you can go to. You can go to better places than Nosso Lar, but we are mostly satisfied if we can go to Nosso Lar. And I spoke to other spiritists in Brazil, and I remember talking to one specific person, and he told me that he believes that we all have to go through the lower zones, even if we're going to Nosso Lar, which I know from studying, and that is not the case, but he fully believes in it. He thinks that, the lower zone / purgatory is a passage that we have to go through, right?
Mandatory.
Sorry?
It's mandatory.
Mandatory, yes. And again, we know that
We'll find out one day.
Not so soon.
I know, so
For those that read the book I Came Back, which unfortunately is not translated into English, it's called Voltaire, he describes, Brother Jacob describes the process of his discarnation, his transition back into the spiritual world, how he ended up in a spiritual colony, which was not Nosso Lar, met all his loved ones, his friends, not loved ones, friends, his daughter that discarnated before him. So, he describes exactly what happens in a very detailed way. So it's very interesting, which gives us spiritists a reason to at least reduce this fear of death, because we know that life continues. We know that if we do our job here, which we can do, it's not much. It's not asking much of us. It's just not to carry too many enemies and not to make things worse for ourselves or act on our imperfections. If we are trying to improve ourselves, even very little, doing the right thing as much as possible, we are going to find ourselves in a good place in the spiritual world. We shouldn't fear going to difficult places. But again, we're talking, here is theory, right? And to go from the mind to the heart, it's challenging. So that's why we fear death. Now, when I talk about atheists or materialists, it's very easy to understand that they should have fear of death. And actually, to be very honest, I admire the atheists that lead a good life, right? That try to do the right thing, because I think that if you believe that everything ends here, I understand that you try to make the most out of it, right? Including taking advantage of whatever opportunities you have, right? So, but there are more evolved spirits that are materialists for different reasons. Sometimes it's important for us that they be materialists in terms of those that study science, that needs to look for answers and cannot accept God as the answer. The fact that believing in God shouldn't prevent them to continue their work. But for them, believing in God means accepting the unknown of their work, and they will stop trying hard, right? So for those people, I accept them being materialistic, and I think it helps humanity. But materialists that are just trying to accumulate wealth and don't think about others, they're going to face responsibilities. Okay?
I think we need to consider here perhaps the most powerful instinct that we have as an animal, that is the instinct of self-preservation. The instinct of self-preservation to live as much as possible, that is an animal instinct that we all have, in itself generate what's called a fear, which in reality is just allowing the instinct to act upon itself. The only way to trump instinct is with reason. Reason overpowers fear, overpowers the instinct. But in order to conquer that knowledge, that understanding, that reasoning, then you need to be open to study and to be open to consider the possibilities, and one of them is the perpetuation of life after the death of the physical body. If you have that by itself, it eliminates tremendous amount of the fear. You're still going to have to stay. You're going to have to stay as long as possible. But then you become comfortable with the end of the physical life when it's come. And as a clinician who work with many deaths, I've seen patients going from absolutely dread and fear to absolute comfort with the death when it's getting close. And not only the patients themselves, the families going from a state of hysteria and despair to absolute peace and comfort as time comes by, and they see that now is inevitable, it's going to happen any time today or tomorrow, and family really truly accept and be kind of in peace with it.
Yeah. I was listening to a talk on on this weekend, and the speaker was talking about those that believe that we are part of God, and when we die, we go back to the whole, right? We lose the individuality and go back to the whole. The issue with that, and that he mentioned, and it's what I agree, is that you have no responsibilities, right, on your physical life, because if you are going back to a whole, everything you did here doesn't carry with you, right? So for me, it's more or less like being materialistic or atheist, because in the end, what's your responsibility if you are not going to carry with you the achievements or issues that you created? So it made me think about comparing them with the materialists also, right? In the sense that you have no responsibility on what you do here, because you're not going to carry anyone when you go back to the spiritual world. But again, for us as spiritists, that we receive communications from the spirits in the spiritual world, and such diverse communications, right? The concept of a whole doesn't make any sense, because we see different communications, good, bad, and very angry ones, very beautiful ones, and it cannot come all from the same source, right?
I have a question.
Sure, Paco.
Elmo, I don't know if I understood you correctly, but well, this is what I understood. You're saying that people that fear death are people usually that are very attached to that animalistic or instinctual part of themselves that have not been able to go beyond it. Am I making, is that what you said, more or less?
No, what I'm saying that the instinct is common for all of us, equal, regardless of beliefs or disbelief. As an animal, we have this instinct of self-preservation.
Yes.
Which is extremely important for us to stay here as long as possible and learn as much as possible and try not to get in trouble along the way, of course, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, what's called fear here is a great deal because of this instinct to try to keep us as long as possible. Now, reasoning overpowers instinct,
Okay.
right?
Good. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. Yes.
Okay, so to develop the reasoning that minimizes the so-called fear, you have to have something that eliminates that fear. And that thing is knowledge of the future life,
Exactly. Okay.
of
Okay.
our life, the continuation of what we are.
Yes.
Okay. And having that makes you comfortable with death.
Yes.
We're still gonna have this thing. We're still going to stay here as long as possible. But without the hysteria, without the absolutely fear, the anxiety of death.
Okay. So no, so I agree with you that once we become knowledgeable of that we are eternal, the fear, the instinctual fear, let me put it this way, kind of mitigates. It's placated.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so the people, so I could actually conclude that people that are what would you call it, in desperate fear of dying is people that are still very much attached, having been able to surpass that instinctual urge of surviving. I could
Yes.
say that
Yeah.
because listen. Why do I say I'm saying this? Okay, first of all, I'm in self-help groups, so every time I do qualify, I say I could have been dead 100 times sober, and I've had experiences, and spiritism has helped me tremendously in seeing myself as an eternal being. Has definitely helped me like you would not believe. So the thing that you're talking about, the more you know about these things, the less the what would you call it, fear, but I want to call it more than fear. Just fear is something kind of light. The panic. We call it the panic of fear of dying.
Yeah.
You move away from that, and then it becomes like a manageable fear. Let me put it this way: once you
Yes.
have the knowledge, because
Yeah.
when I had the WPW, that I went through that experience myself. When I had, I was sitting here, and the heart was, it was like, it was interesting because this was a beautiful experience too. I did embrace death, but then it's because of my years here in spiritism. Because being here, it's I don't want to say more courageous because that's not the word. I guess it's more accepting
More
of reality.
More comfortable.
You're more comfortable. I'm more like embracing of the reality that I learned here.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you said at the beginning. Don't remember that we're very panicky about things that we don't know, we don't know. But now, after so many years here, it's manageable. It's manageable. That's the right word. You said it correctly. Thank you. Thank you, Elmo.
And not only our own death, but also the death of our loved ones, because a lot more manageable to us.
Yeah, which we studied last week, right? Loss of loved ones, and it goes back to it again, right?
Yes.
Because again, we know that the separation is temporary, so we should be more. Again, as we said, it doesn't mean that you don't suffer. It doesn't mean that you don't mourn. All these things that are healthy parts of the process of the separation.
Exactly. Very
But the
good.
problem is the revolt, the carrying on of the anger and the misconceptions of death of loved ones, right?
Yeah.
So, but one thing here also is that many people even when we talk about spiritists, I hear many people saying, I don't fear death. I fear the moment of death.
Yeah, I hear that also.
Yes, you hear that a lot, which is, again, it's understandable, of course, but we know that the spirits, if you lead a good life, the spirits are going to help you in the transition. Like in the book I Came Back, Brother Jacob was helped by many spirits during the process of transition. And many spirits don't feel anything, because you hear people that died in accidents, they don't feel anything, they don't remember anything. We see spirits coming here and talking to us that they died in an accident, they don't know, right? So even the fear of the moment of death shouldn't be something that should disturbs us a lot. Of course, again, there are many people that are very uncomfortable with uncertainty, and death is uncertainty, and it disturbs many of us. So I understand that, but we need to bring like I almost said, the reason, right? It's in our minds, but we need to bring to our hearts the belief that we are eternal spirits. So we have a question from Naomi here. Hi, Naomi, welcome. Hello all, I'm Neil. Thank you so much for this. It was wonderful. I'm sorry I need to go a little early. I look forward to joining you again next week. Thank you for joining us. We are going to have one more question and then we're done for today also. So we hope to see you next week. Thanks now, Naomi. Last one, Philip.
942. Some persons may find this advice somewhat mundane. Won't they see them as being commonplace and hackneyed truths? Won't they say that the true secret to happiness is being able to endure one's misfortunes? Many people adopt this view, but some are similar to individuals who fall ill and demand to be cured without changing their habits. Although their physicians prescribe corrective diets, they continue the indulgences that aggravated their conditions in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure I understood what Kardec wanted with this question. People that believe that this advice is that life is eternal, that we continue, that should be, they are commonplace. That really the true secret to happiness is being able to endure. Again, the more we are in peace with ourselves during our misfortunes, the happier we will be. But the knowledge, true knowledge, never hurts, right? Too much light can blind a person, of course, but knowledge is, or making a difference between knowledge and truth. Acquiring knowledge never hurts. So the more you learn, the more the better you are prepared to deal with circumstances of life, right? And afterlife. So the fact there are people that just dismiss this sort of information, and I always remember my mother when I used to tell her that life continues, you're going to meet your loved ones. Her answer to me was always, let's see. Because she didn't really believe in the afterlife, but she really didn't disbelieve also, right? So that's why the answer, let's see, that she always gave to the end. And she discarnated when she was 99. So now she's seeing. But again, I understand that some people don't want to focus on that. They want to focus on something else. And we are all different individuals focused on different aspects of our lives and different interests, right? There are people that want to study spirituality, are more involved in spirituality, and some people that are believe in the afterlife, are religious, but very comfortable with their religion and don't want to go get more knowledge on these things because they are more interested in other things. We all have our own journeys, right? And our challenges and opportunities. I don't know what you understood from this question.
I think I understand like you, the Kardec asking if the advice of having the certainty of eternal life is the source of tranquility, and some people say no, that's not it. What it is to be able to endure this watch of life. I think that depends on the point of view. I think anyone who is able to outstand the misfortunes of life with serenity, with comfort, is someone quite spiritualized by itself, regardless of beliefs and disbeliefs. Because to go through all the misfortunes that we experience here in the physical world, with comfort, without despair, you need to be somewhat spiritualized already. So I think the two things go somewhat together. I can imagine a completely materialist be comfortable with the misfortunes of life. It's very hard for me to accept, to understand that. Possible, yes, but I don't understand.
Okay. So the next subject is suicide, which is a very heavy and difficult subject to discuss. We are going to leave it for next week. We have 5 minutes left, and I think it deserves a full class of study. So we come back next week for this Days for Life suicide to discuss it, okay? So what we have this weekend on Saturday, the USSF, United States Spiritist Federation Live, is going to be another episode of the US Spiritist Movement in Action. And Bia Lopes, Maria Zago, and Yuri Castro are going to discuss engaging young minds in Spiritism, a very important subject. And you can watch it on Saturday, 11 a.m. On Sunday, it's the third Sunday of the month. We are going to study the Medians book. We're starting chapter. No, yeah, I think we're I don't remember which chapter we are. So, but it's going back to the study of the Medians book. Okay. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, thank you very much, John, for hosting our class this evening. Thank you, Elmo. Thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening, and everyone who is here. Thank you. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Spirit's book, Book 4, Chapter 1, Antipathetic Relationships and Fear of Death. We reincarnate to be with loved ones and those that we have had prior issues with, ones that are also new to us, which will help us be able to develop this as an opportunity. Antipathetic relationships may be short-lived and can also be one-sided, which can be an attempt through love to improve upon prior difficulties or dislikes. We have free will, and we also have pride connected with our follies. Many may be conditioned to fear death or bring forth doubts about the afterlife. There can be anxiety when facing the unknown, especially for materialists or perhaps the atheists. We have the instinct of self-preservation. As spiritists, we receive a wide variety of spirit communications, and this will help us to know that we are more than a physical body. We know that we are eternal spirits. The good spirits will help us. They will assist us during our time of physical transition into the spiritual world. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritual centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. And may we remind ourselves now to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.